Okay, cool.
All right, good morning, grade 12s, and welcome to yet another lesson on STEM Lockdown Digital School. My name is Sibusiso Masumbuka, and today we are doing grade 12 life orientation. So good to see the usual suspects back again. Amo, I see you here. Cameron, welcome. Cameron Kruger, welcome. Emma, um, Jason, Gajiso, Kyle, always here. Lesedi, Pooms, Sim, uh, Will also always here, Zoe Brahma. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me in today's lesson. Welcome to the learners that are watching on YouTube, and welcome to those that are watching on Zoom. So today, yesterday we started with the lesson on careers and career choices. Like I said, in grade 12, you guys do career choices in 3 chapters. And I like how it's phased out. In the first chapter, we looked at committing to a decision and applying for university as well as applying for a job interview skills, etc., etc. And then we also, sorry, in this chapter, in the second chapter, we then focused on the core elements of working or job contracts, the workers' rights. We looked at legislation yesterday. And then later on, we're going to be focusing more on careers, which is the very last chapter in grade 12. Guys, we are now on chapter 13. We are 2 chapters away from finishing the year's syllabus in life orientation. So it's really, really great to know that this platform has allowed us to catch up on all the work we were able to revise, learn new work, and these slides are all available to you on Africa Teen Geeks, as well as these videos that are being recorded right now. So they're going to be available to you, and you guys can use them when you revise and when you study for your exams. Guys, we're going to check the chats off for a bit, and can I ask you to keep your videos off, and then I'll be able to then answer your questions if you have queries once the chat box is open. So if you think that I'm going a bit too fast or too slow, or I'm not making sense, please feel free to ask me questions in the chat box, and then we'll continue as we normally do. Again, welcome to you, all of you guys, and I'm really stoked and excited about this particular chapter. Careers and giving learners career guidance is really, really dear to my heart because it's such an exciting time. And you know, everybody makes the real world or life after grade 12 is a very dreadful and a hard part of your life, but it's all part of our development. And I can tell you this now, and I can assure you that the 12 years that you've spent in school, making new friends, building relationships with your friends, your family, as well as your peers as well, has allowed you and has developed you to become the person that will be ready to tackle the world next year. So shout out to you guys for tuning in today. All right, so at the end of the lesson today, you guys will know a bit more about trade unions and organized labor. We're going to be looking at work ethics and societal expectations with regards to work. We're going to be looking at the value of work, like why must we work? You know, why must we go to school after work? Why must we start our own businesses? What value does work bring into our life? So we're going to be looking at all of that, all right, and how work gives meaning to life as well apart from paying tax. So yesterday we looked at legislation, again the labor laws. We looked at the Labor Relations Act. We said this act looks at the relationship between the worker and the employee to make sure that they are working well together. All right. The Employment Equity Act perpetuates the idea of equality, non-discrimination in the workplace, and we also then spoke about the topic of affirmative action yesterday, which allows people that were previously disadvantaged to get an opportunity in the workplace as they were previously disadvantaged due to patriarchal structures in our society or due to apartheid or whatever else that occurred previously. And we said that people that were previously disadvantaged are women, black people, colored people, Indian people, as well as people that are living with disabilities. We also then looked at the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, and this act looks at the conditions in which workers work in at work. It looks at leave days, It looks at your off days, the amount of hours that you need to work, etc., to make sure that we're not exploited at work. And I'm particularly going to be looking at this one, at the Basic Condition of Employment Act, and look at it more into detail today. And if you guys have any questions, please ask your questions. All right. And then we're also going to be we also looked at the principles of equity and redress. We said that equity means that you treat everybody fairly, with fairness. We also said that redress means that you're fixing the past inequalities. And then we also looked at the recruitment process and the general trends. We spoke about that you don't just have to go to every company and just drop off your CV. There's many new ways in which you can find a job, whether you go on Careers 24, whether you build a network on LinkedIn, whether you go on social media to look for jobs. There's many different career sites in which can help you and aid you in looking for a job. And you can also get help looking for a job by signing up with a recruitment agency that will find jobs for you as well. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. Yesterday, I gave you a bit of work. We did this activity yesterday, and I want us to sort of answer these questions. All right, I'm going to go through it again, and then I'll give you the possible answers and solutions to it. If you guys could just pop in the chat box and let me know what some of your responses are. So we said here, this is the scenario. It says that, so I just need to move this. It says that worker submits fraudulent medical certificates. A worker at a well-known company took sick leave in the first term of 2019, from the 7th to the 9th of January, from the 14th to the 17th of January, from the 21st and to the 24th of January. This basically means that this worker was off work um, from Monday to Thursday. This worker only went into work on a Friday, which is very shady and odd, right? The employer discovered that the worker had submitted fraudulent medical certificates. Now, we're asked to write an essay about this. As you guys can see, the mark allocation is 15 marks. It says here, write paragraphs on the core elements of a job contract, obviously, that are advised by the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. And the first question says, this is how they want us to structure our essay. So like I told you before, that when you have an essay, you will then write an introduction. So as you guys can see here, we're talking about the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. So what I would do if I were you, I would introduce the topic by explaining what the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. So you can then say that the Basic Conditions of Employment Act was introduced in 1997, and it makes rules and regulations about the rights to fair labor practices, which include employers giving their employees details on their employment, etc. It could be any of that introduction, but it has to be related to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Or you can even mention the other acts, or you can even write an introduction about labor laws as well. So that's your introduction. Even though you don't get marks for your introduction, you still need to have your introduction because that is the structure of writing essays. Then, in the first paragraph, we need to then answer the first question. The first question says, or the first instruction says that we need to identify the relevant labor acts related to sick leave in the scenario above and give two reasons why workers should know the regulations on taking leave. So, as we've identified that the labor act that is related to this particular scenario is the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. So if I were your teacher and I had to mark your work, you would get 1 mark for writing Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Then we need to answer the second question. Why should workers know the regulations on taking leave? So you could have answered any of these following responses. Workers should know the regulations so that they know what the rules are pertaining to different types of leave, what is required, what required documentation is needed for different leave taking, by when is the relevant documentation supposed to be submitted to the employer, the rules. They also should know the rules with regards to the submission of medical certificates for sick leave. They also need to know how their salaries may be affected if they exhaust the number of days allocated to the different types of leave. So exhaust means when you exhaust your number of leave days, it means that you have overused your number of leave days. For example, in a 3-year cycle, we're told in the Basic Condition of Employment Act that you have 30 sick leave days in a 3-year cycle. So if your cycle starts this year, it means in 2020, 2021, and in 2022, you are only allowed to fall sick 30 times for 30 days. All right? And if you use those sick leave days, then you then have to apply with your with your HR department for extra or special leave as well. Okay, but we'll look into that later on. And another reason why workers should know their regulations on taking leave is that they need to know the consequences that would take place if they violate these regulations, and it also helps them to manage their leave days or their leave taking. So those are just some of the possible answers in your first paragraph. The second paragraph asks, how do you think the employer came to the conclusion that the worker's medical certificates in the scenario above were fraudulent? You need to discuss 3 possible reasons, and each reason will give you 2 marks. So again, these are the possible answers that you could have answered for your second paragraph. I'm just reading from the memo that from last year's prelim memo. Like I said, this question is particularly from last year's prelim. And I remember when I marked these prelims, a lot of the learners really battled with this question because it is legislature as well. So these are the possible answers as to how the employer found out that these were fraudulent medical certificates. The worker may have tampered with the dates, the handwriting on the medical certificates, which may have raised suspicion that the medical certificates were forged. The employer, the second one could be, the employer may have been aware of previous misconducts by the worker, which may have led to closer scrutiny of the medical certificates, hence discovering the medical certificates to be fraudulent. Another one could be that the workers may have submitted medical certificates that were not issued and signed by the registered medical practitioners or doctors who were not registered by the Medical Board or Health Professional Council of South Africa, which then would imply or mean that the certificates were not authentic. Like I said, every medical certificate is supposed to have your doctor's practice number, all right? And you can search for these practice numbers as well. So don't take chances when the day you work and you want to hand in a fake medical certificates, because it is a matter of misconduct. Another response could be that there may have been a pattern of poor work attendance by the worker who have submitted fraudulent medical certificates in the past, which could have confirmed that he or she has a history of not complying with the company's policies or procedures, leading to the employer's conclusion that he or she might have falsified the medical certificates. Guys, again, your answers don't have to be in such fancy, well-structured sentences. You really can just use your own words. Another reason could be that the medical certificates may have had all the required information, may have not had all the required information by the medical practitioner, which is why the certificates could be accepted as valid. And then another reason could be the employer may have made general inquiry with the worker's visit to the doctor. So maybe the boss actually called the doctor and asked if this particular worker came to visit them with regards to their medical condition, which could have indicated the information on the medical certificates to have not been reliable, and there are no records of the worker visiting the doctor. So there are many responses in which you could ask. Remember, this particular question asks you, how do you think? So it needed you to give your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas from what you generated in the statement above. And then let's have a look at the third paragraph in which you could have included. Now, the third paragraph asks you, recommend. So you must recommend 2 practical ways in which employers could reinforce work ethics to counteract absenteeism in the workplace. So you need to tell us how should bosses make sure that their workers do not fall absent all the time? How do they reignite, reinforce those work ethics? And we're going to be having a look at some of the work ethics later on. So as you guys can see here, it's 2 times 3. That means you must give 2 practical ways, and each practical way will give you 3 marks each. So 3 marks are awarded for 2 well-explained responses. And some of the responses could have been the employers could, so the bosses could regularly emphasize the expectations for attendance at work or introduce compulsory workshops on leave management so that all workers may be clear on the matter at all times. And this may ensure that they may always make responsible decisions regarding work attendance. Employers could also, this is the second one, employers could enforce work attendance policy consistently so that workers may realize the seriousness thereof. And in this way, there may be more discipline um, with regard to attendance in the workplace. Another response is that employers could ensure that all workers know what to do when they are to be late at work or miss a day so that they may follow proper procedures, and this may guarantee that their absence from work does not negatively affect their productivity. So there's many responses in which you guys may have had, and I will particularly load the memo and the question paper of last year's prelim so that you guys can see what are some of the possible answers you guys could have used. All right, let me not waste any more time and get in today's lesson. All right, we've looked at the possible. Okay, now with regards to the basic conditions of employment act, I just want to explain some of the leave days and how they work. And I think it's so important that we know all of this. And guys, the Employment Equity Act, the Labor Relations Act, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act are all acts, work legislation, work laws, labor laws in which we can find in our constitution. But I know a lot of businesses and work organizations have these in their workplaces. All right. For example, I know that the Basic Conditions of Employment Act is pasted on a huge on a wall in our staff room where I teach. The Employment Equity Act is also up there in the office, and also the Labor Relations Act, because we need to be aware and be reminded of our rights as workers as well. Let's have a look at annual leave. All right, annual leave, a worker can take 21 continuous annual leave by agreement. A worker gets 1 day for every 17 days worked, or an hour for every 17 hours worked. An employer, a employer can only pay a worker for leave not taken once he leaves the job. All right. So that's how annual leave is calculated. All right. On your pay slip, when you start working, your leave days are also calculated there so that you know how many leave days you have accumulated in the year. And guys, it's so important for you to take that leave, because if you don't take that leave, then the business has to pay you back all those leave days. And there's a huge procedure around that whole issue. All right, let's have a look at at sick leave. A worker can take 6 weeks paid sick leave during a 36-day leave cycle. Sorry, I made a mistake earlier on. It's not 30 days, it's 36 days. And during the first 6 months, a worker can take 1 day's paid sick leave for every 26 days worked. So it's so important for you to know that, especially for you guys who are going to be working for the very first time pretty soon. Another one on sick leave. An employer can ask for a medical certificate before paying a worker for being sick more than 2 days or more than twice in 8 weeks. All right. So this basically means that if you're sick on the 1 day, it doesn't mean that you must submit a sick leave the following day. You need to you must have been sick 2 consecutive days to submit that sick leave. And it must be at least twice in that 8 weeks as well. Let's have a look at maternity leave, and I'll also give you insight on paternal leave as well. So maternity leave obviously only affects women, all right, because only women can fall pregnant. It says a pregnant worker can take 4 continuous months of maternity leave. Leave can start from 4 weeks before expected date of birth. A pregnant worker may not work for 6 weeks after giving birth unless declared fit to do so by the doctor or the midwife. Now, that affects women. Now, last year or 2 years ago, there was an amendment that was made on paternity leave. So paternity leave is leave taken by the father of the child, of the baby that's about to be born, or that is born. So paternity leave says that it was before they used to give dads 3 days paternity leave, right? But now they've amended it and they've changed it to 10 days um, paternity leave. So it's so important to also keep updated with these types of leave as well. And obviously, for people that want to adopt or people that are homosexuals and have adopted children or got a surrogate, they also have a special amended type of leave that accommodates them as well. And then let's have a look at FRL or Family Responsibility Leave. It says here full-time workers who are employed for longer than 4 months can take 3 days paid family responsibility leave when if the worker or worker's child is sick or are born, death of a spouse, life partner, adoptive parents, grandparents, child, adopted child, grandchild, or sibling, and then employers are entitled to proof of need to such leave. So, for example, if your mom has died, then your employer would then require a a death certificate, etc., etc. I hope that makes sense. All right. So again, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's jump straight into today's lesson, which is on trade unions and organized labor. So trade unions, like we discussed yesterday, are organizations that represent the interests of their members in the workplace. They participate in collective bargaining or negotiations with employers, for example, wage increases or improvements in the workplace conditions. So like I said, every sector, every industry in which you will work in one day will have a trade union specified to that particular industry. For example, I am a teacher, so I will then join a trade union that is specified or that is around teachers. So for example, you could join APTOSA, which is a teachers union, or you could join SATU, which I have here, which is the South African Democratic Teachers Union. And what they do is that they then sit with our employers, which is then the government or the schools, and they make sure that our salary increases are negotiated well, the way in which we work in the workplace is negotiated well. They can even be there for interviews as well to make sure that the Employment Equity Act is implemented quite well. A lot of you guys asked me via email what collective bargaining is. Collective bargaining, collective means together or group, and then bargaining means that you are negotiating to get a bargain, to get a deal. All right. So collective bargaining means that you're negotiating with people on things such as wage increases or improvements in the workplace as well. All right. Other types of trade unions is NUM. This is NUM, which is the National Union of Mine Workers. The police force also has their own trade union. Um, actors have their own trade union. People, people of all different industries, even people that belong to the banking or finance sector, they all have their own trade unions as well. All right. COSATU, yes, Will has just told us now. COSATU is also a trade union, but they are basically because they are the first one of the first trade unions to have emerged, and they basically are the umbrella of all trade unions. So most of the time, everyone can sort of join a trade union or join COSATU, and they will be covered in a particular industry. So they're not industry specified. All right. I hope that I make sense to you guys. And you know, we've seen now with COVID-19, with the pandemic that we're going through now, and government coming up with all these different regulations and rules as to how people will then assimilate back into their work environment and all that stuff, and how and whether people will get paid or not get paid. We've seen how trade unions have played a major role in making sure that um, we are assimilated or accommodated or negotiated well in trade unions as well. Lesedi Tongela asked, sir, can the DA be classified as a trade union? Unfortunately not. The DA is a political party, all right? So the DA is a political party, but a trade union focuses on basically the labor laws, all right? Um, Thank you so much for that question. All right, let's have a look at organized labor, employers, organizations, and federations. Now, we said that trade unions look after or negotiate work conditions and wage salaries. Organized labor, trade unions are a form of organized labor, The other forms of organized labor include employers' organizations. So employers' organizations, it says here, the Labor Relations Act, the LRA, states that employers have the right to join employers' organizations. So what employers' organizations do is that they look after the interests of their members, which are then the employers. And they negotiate with trade unions and keep members up to date on the latest labor laws. So this employers organization is joined by, or the members of the employers organizations are then owners of businesses or employers. All right. So trade unions is for the workers, employers organizations is for the employers. All right. And then a federation. A federation is a group of organizations that is made up by of smaller groups such as trade unions or employers organization, and they negotiate with government and represent their members. So these federations lobby to the government about work laws and all that stuff. So they are the ones that influence what labor laws are going to be implemented to accommodate both the workers and the employers as well. So it's so important for you to be able to differentiate between trade unions, employers organizations, and federations. Trade unions are for the workers and they negotiate salaries and working conditions. Employers organizations, they are formed by employers, the bosses, and they negotiate with trade unions and keep members up to date with the latest labor laws. And then federations is almost like a merge of both the trade unions and the employers organization, and these people help to negotiate with the government. This could be a really, really good Section A question, and even it could be asked in a Section C or B question as to differentiate between the three types of organized labor. So you will name trade unions, employers organization, and federation. Then they could ask you to explain it, so you get 2 marks for explaining them each, and you might even be asked to give an example of each. All right. All right, okay, I'll slow down just a bit, Will. Sorry. If you want me to reiterate anything, please let me know in the chat box. All right, so again, trade unions is for the workers, employers organization is for the employers, and they negotiate with trade unions, and then federations is a merge, it's a group of both the trade unions and the employer organizations, and they lobby and negotiate with the government and represent their members. I hope I've made sense between the three. When they ask you to differentiate between trade unions, employers organizations, and federations, I hope you'll be able to explain that. All right. They could ask this question in this year's prelim. Differentiate between the three types of organized labor. Explain them and give examples. There's a lot of things that you guys can use, a lot of the answers or many responses to that. All right, let's have a look at work ethics and societal expectations. All right, so as you guys know, it's important for us to have work ethics, all right, because that's what drives us and makes sure that we perform well in the workplace. And work ethics, just to give you a definition, ethics are moral principles and standards of conduct that tell us how we should act and behave in the work environment. All right, work ethics deals with workers' attitudes towards his or her job and the employer. You can compare it with attitudes towards your school and your work responsibility towards your school work. That's what work ethic is. It involves your attitudes, your behavior, respect, honesty, accountability, communication, interaction with other people. It can be compared with the effort you take to study, how you respect your teachers and fellow students and make your school a better place. So this is an example of work ethic in a school context. Good work ethics will refer to your positive attitude and commitment to your work, or in your case, your school. Work ethics demonstrates the decisions you make about what is right and acceptable against what is wrong and unacceptable. Work ethics come from within a person and give others a picture of your values, culture, and upbringing. Guys, it's so important to adapt good work ethics. And how do you adapt good work ethics is a question that you guys might ask me. You start now in your schooling career, working hard, having teamwork, having integrity, being enthusiastic, having honesty, and being able to assimilate and work well with other people. Those are just some of the work ethics that you can start learning, that you have started learning in your schooling careers. So you need to use those and use them into your work environment, because if you have no work ethic, no person, you're not going to survive in the world of work. I'm telling you now, you're not going to survive in the world of work. When employers look for people to work for them, they look at their work ethic. When you apply for a job and you're asked to get a reference, and your reference is your previous boss or your teacher, they're going to comment on your work ethic. How are you able to cope under pressure? How do you work with other people? How seriously do you take your actual work? That is what work ethics are. All right, I'm going to continue with work ethic. It says here, people with good work ethics are likely to keep their jobs and make a success at work. They will also benefit from their good ethics by coming in line for promotion. So if you work hard and you produce good results in your work, you're bound to get a promotion somewhere or the other. So continue to work hard. The skills of having good work ethics are referred to as soft skills: the willingness to learn and to be taught by a senior or a supervisor, the ability to get along with other workers as well, um, the behavior and attitude of the worker towards the company, being on time, being punctual, very important, and being at work without taking leave or sick leave unnecessarily, or without proper reason. Don't be absent from work unless if you really are dying. I always say that. Always make sure that you always go to work, because that shows a bit of, not a bit, but a huge chunk of your work ethic as well. Good work ethic is the most important skill in keeping a good job. Good work will start the moment you apply for a job. You will show this by putting in a neat, complete, and well-organized application without any mistakes. So your CV and how well it's written and your cover letter reflects your good work ethic. It says, continuing with that, it says, when you start a new job, the first thing your supervisor will notice is the time you arrive and leave your work. If you're the first person to arrive at work, kudos to you. Well done. They recognize things like that. Don't ever, ever be late for work. It really, that idea of, or just being tardy and being late for work just reflects how you just cannot manage your time well. And that also reflects your work ethic as well. Uh, um, if you're the first person to leave work and you don't put in the extra hours, people notice those things. But if you are able to stay there and you're able to continuously work, then that also reflects that, oh, this person actually prioritizes their work as well. All right, there's a question here. Um, Rutendo asked, so at our age, what can we write on our CV? Yo, sure. There's a lot that you can write at your age in your CV. You can write about your competencies. What are the things that you're good at? Your skills. For example, the fact that you are a leader, probably in your rugby team or your netball team, could reflect your leadership skills. You can write about that and your experience about that. The fact that you have achieved in many different sporting codes or cultural codes also reflects that. Your academic excellence, you achieving or doing well in academics, also reflects that. Being helpful can also be added in your CV as well. Your total experience. Remember, a CV is a background. You're giving people a background of who you are. You're trying to sell what you can bring into that company. So there's a whole lot of things that you can write in your CV as well. And I know you might think, oh, but I don't have any work experience. Focus on the things that you're good at. Focus on the things that you have done in your schooling career. That is what you can put in your CV as well. I remember the one time um, I went for a job interview and they asked me, what does RCL mean? And I said to them, RCL means I was a representative council of learners. I represented the learners, my peers in my grade and in my school, with regards to the policies that are going to be changed or amended in our school code of conduct. So in a sense, I played a leadership role. And trust and believe, employers are always looking for people with great leadership skills. Thank you so much for that question. All right, let's have a look at societal expectations. This is what society expects of us. when we work. It says societal expectation refers to what the society and people in your community expect from other people and sharing the community with them. So guys, like I said, when you choose a career, you need to choose a career and by looking at your strengths and your weaknesses, by looking at the things that you like and the things that you don't like. But also at the same time, you also need to look at how you can use your talents, your skills, your strengths to be at service of other people. You know, make sure that in your career, you're always at service of other people. Then you are assured of living a fulfilled life. All right. It says it is about societal expectations are also about how people expect other people to behave and how they treat each other. It can almost be compared to our basic human rights in our constitution. Rights like the right to be treated with respect, to be safe, to be treated with dignity and not judged unfairly. It also refers to our environment and the way we expect others to treat the environment and environment that we share and protect for the future. Also here it says, okay, I see I've got another question here. Right, I've got 10 minutes left, and I need to wrap up the lesson. Okay. Um, when you enter into the world of work, people in the workplace will have certain expectations of you and the way you behave. So, unfortunately, when you step into the world of work, you have to be a bit more mature. You have to bring out your professional side and not be too friendly. There's a difference between being friends or having friends in the workplace and being friendly with people at work. I always say that you must always be friendly, but try and not create those like a friendship, because you know how friendships are. Sometimes they don't have boundaries. Sometimes you've become friends with somebody and then you become their superior. It is very hard and difficult to delegate to somebody that you're friends with. But to be friendly, it means that you are nice to people. It means that you are being cordial to people as well. A very big difference there. Um, Okay, let's have a look at some of the societal expectations stipulated here. And I've put a quote here. It says, people are born with brains and sometimes money, but work ethic levels are played, but work ethics levels the playing field. So your work ethic is really what brings out the best in you. And let's have a look at some of the examples of work ethics and societal expectations. The first one, adaptability. All right. Are you flexible and can you cope with change? COVID-19 has brought a whole lot of change, and we were forced to adapt. Instead of whining and complaining about what is happening or things that we have no control over, the thing that we don't have control over being obviously being this virus. But what we have control over is, what change can we bring? Are we able to adapt to it as well? Another one is appearance, the way you dress. I always say that you need to brand yourself. The way you dress says a lot about you. All right. You need to dress appropriately for the work, for your job. Um, your attitude. The next one is attitude. All right. Do you have a positive attitude toward your job? Are you enthusiastic? Are you motivated? Do you enjoy your job? Your faith, and how are you like when you face challenges? And remember, we spoke about resilience and perseverance and all that stuff. And we always need to make sure that we are that our attitude is always positive. Even when you face adversity in the workplace, your boss does not have to be nice to you. Your colleagues do not have to be nice to you. But having that positive attitude will make you surpass all those negative things. And positive attitude results in positive outcomes as well. And then another one is dependability. All right. Are you honest? Are you reliable? Are you always on time? When you're given a task to do something, can somebody depend on you? Another one is cooperation. How well do you get along with everybody else in the workplace? Do you show respect? Are you courteous? Do you have good manners? Do you greet? And then another one is lifelong learning. A lot of people think that after getting their degrees, after getting their matric certificates, that it's time for they can stop learning. But lifelong learning means that, are you willing to learn new skills, develop yourself as well? Self-development is so important, and we looked at this when we did grade 10 life orientation. Another one is flexibility, also very linked with dependability, sorry, with adaptability? Are you willing to do a job that is not in your job description or after your normal working hours? So are you able to do more than what you asked? You know, that is what flexibility is. That is what flexibility is. And bosses look at that. When you do more work than is required, your boss sees that, and that reflects good work ethic. For example, you could be the financial manager of your business, of the business in which you live, that you work for. And if your boss, for example, asks you, can you organize a Christmas party for us? And then you're able to organize all of that. That means that you are doing more than what your job requires off of you. All right. The next one is teamwork, very important. And we learn teamwork when we join sports teams and we do all these things in school. Teamwork says you get on with other teammates. You respect them. Are you helpful? Do you share ideas and mentorship as well? Reliability also very linked, closely linked with dependability. Honesty. You must always be honest. You must always have integrity in the workplace as well. All right. Uh, yes. Yes. I see. Will asked another question. Is honesty is integrity linked with these work ethics? Absolutely. Integrity means that you do things that are right even when nobody is looking at you. All right. Mentoring. Are you able to mentor new people? People that come into the new workplace. Are you able to mentor them and guide them? You know. Initiative means that are you able to take initiative? Are you able to come up with new ideas? Can you work without direct supervision? Are you able to guide yourself? You know, responsibility also linked with accountability. Are you able to fulfill your call of duty? And then another one is organization. Are you organized? Do you manage your time well? Another one linked with organization is punctuality. Are you always on time? Very important. All right. You always need to be on time. And you cannot use traffic as an excuse. There's always traffic, especially if you live in Johannesburg. All right, let's have a look at the value of work. And I know I don't have much time left. It says here, the value of work is more than providing money. It gives you a purpose and meaning. It helps you to live a fulfilled life. To be fulfilled means that you are satisfied with your work, that you are contented, and that you are happy. And you can only achieve all of this if you have passion and love for the work that you do and that you enjoy the work that you do. If you get into a career because of the money, you're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to love your job. You're not going to enjoy it. So make sure that you get into careers that you love, that you can stay up all night doing the work, that you can be flexible, that you can be dependable, that that all reflects a good work ethic. And you can see somebody who's passionate in what they do. Um, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. All right. Let's look at how to find meaning in your life. You can use the skills and abilities you already have. You can love yourself and others. Aim to leave the world a better place. So, in your career, how are you going to change the world? That's always the question that you need to ask yourself. Help others by being a role model. Wake up each day with joy and gratitude. Um, Work, volunteer, start your own business as well. And how does work give meaning to life? Work gives self-actualization. As you guys know about Abraham Maslow, who came up with the hierarchy of needs, he says that if you have meaning in your life, you are fulfilled and have self-actualization. And self-actualization means that it means to achieve your potential. And he came up with this, and it's very important to know that if you are able to do what you love, get into a career that you love, then you will gain self-actualization, which is then your potential to achieve. You know, and what a fulfilling thing to experience. And I'm product of that. All right. Today we learned about trade unions, organized labor, work ethics, and societal expectations, the value of work, and how work gives meaning to life. I hope that you guys enjoyed and found today's lessons to be very helpful. These slides are going to be included in my Google Classroom. Tomorrow, we're going to be revising on study skills. Very important that you join me in tomorrow's lesson um, because we're going to be refining how we can study better. And then please tag us on social media, on the different social media platforms. Email me if you have any queries. If I did not get to your questions today, and please join my Google Classroom. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you guys bright and early at 10 o'clock tomorrow for grade 12 life orientation. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and stay safe. Cheers.